Let's say that I want to create a game, and I will create different game characters for my game. These are the properties that my game characters will have: name, health, strength, and aggressive. And I will create, for now, 3 game characters. For example, a skeleton with some features, then a wolf with different features, and a dragon. The problem here is that I'm reusing these variables for all the game characters, so I am overwriting the values of them. If I print, for example, the name variable, I would print dragon, so I'm losing the previous values of the name variable. This is a perfect moment to declare a class. A class is a collection of variables. For now, you can think about a class like that. As you can see here, there is a class. The class Java program starts here and ends here, so I will write a new class after that. I write class, then I decide the name of my class. I will say game character, and here inside I will put the properties of my game characters. So I move all these variables inside the class. My code editor tells me that these variables don't exist anymore because I removed the declarations. Now what I can do is declare a variable for each game character. For example, for the skeleton. The type of this variable can be game character, because the class that I declared is a new type. I can use this class as a new type. The same way I could use, for example, int or string. I can declare skeleton as game character. This class contains all the variables that I put inside. So this skeleton variable contains all these properties. I can access the properties of skeleton with skeleton.name, skeleton.health, etc. I will write skeleton dot before all these variables: skeleton.name, skeleton.health, skeleton.strength, and aggressive. I can declare also a variable for the wolf and use the wolf dot in these variables, and do the same with the dragon. I will declare a variable dragon of type game character, and I can type dragon.name, dragon.health, etc. I still have an error. It tells me that the variable is not initialized. The thing is that I'm using the variable skeleton in the line 10, but after the declaration in the line 4, I'm not assigning anything to the variable. Before using the variable in the line 10, I need to assign something. I can do it here in the same line. In this case, because this is a class, you need to write new and then the name of the class, game character, and then 2 parentheses. I will explain what is that later. I will use the same syntax to create the wolf and the dragon. And now my program will work. I can verify it by printing some of the values. If I run this program, I expect to see skeleton and health 80, wolf 60, and dragon 100. And this is what I get. Now let's see what happens if I move these lines here above. What happens if I try to print these values before actually assigning them? What would my program print? You will see strange values, null and 0. Null is the default value for the name for a string, and 0 is the default value for health, for double or int, for numbers. In order to avoid this problem, what if I could already put these values when I'm creating the game character here? For example, skeleton, 80, 10, and true, instead of assigning these values afterwards. Actually, I can do that, but I need to declare a special function. As you can see here, these parentheses, they look like this is a function call, and actually it is a function call. It is a special function call. The function that this is calling is the constructor function, and you can declare the constructor function here. It is like a normal function, but you just write the name of the class. You write public and you don't write static. I will talk about that later. As in a normal function call, you need, for these arguments, you need the corresponding parameters in the same order. So I will declare these parameters: the string name, the double health, the int strength, and the boolean aggressive. And I'm declaring them in the same order as I'm passing the arguments here. I will do the same with the wolf, with same values. It has name wolf, health 60, strength 15, and aggressive false. And the dragon, name dragon, health 100, strength 25, and aggressive true. And I can remove this because I'm not using this anymore. Now I'm running again my program, and will I see the values? No, I still see those default null and 0 values. The reason is that my parameters are receiving the values of the arguments, but I need to put these values in the properties of the class. So what can I do? I can assign to the property name the value of the parameter name. But look, I have a problem because they have the same name. This is confusing. So what can I do? I could change, for example, the name of the parameter and call it name0. So name equals name0. This is one alternative. Another option is to change the name of the property. So for example, underscore name equals name. But in Java and in other languages, as you will see, the typical solution is to write the keyword this dot. When you write this dot and a name, you refer to the property and not to the parameter. So I can do the same with the other properties. I can assign this dot health to the health parameter and this dot strength to the strength parameter. Remember that this dot name is the property and name is the parameter. Now, if I run my program again, I will see finally the values that I expected. Now I will show you that it is not necessary to pass in the constructor call all the properties of the class. For example, the aggressive property. I could say that the default value is true and then change it to false if it's necessary, for example, for the wolf. Since true is the most common value for the aggressive property, I will remove it from the constructor call, from the construction of the game characters, and then I will set it to false for the wolf. Now I have an error here because I have to fix my constructor. My constructor has 4 parameters and I need to remove this aggressive because I'm not passing the argument anymore. Now here this doesn't make sense because I don't have the parameter aggressive. So what I need to do is to set the default value for this property, which I decided to be true. Now if I run my program, I will see the values of the different game characters. I'm not printing the aggressive, so I will add this to my print statements so you can see the value of the aggressive property for the different game characters, for the skeleton, the wolf, and the dragon. So when I run my program again, I expect to see true for the skeleton and dragon and false for the wolf. And this is exactly what I get. Now that the Java version is working correctly, I will write the JavaScript version. I will copy the content of the main function into the JavaScript file because JavaScript doesn't have the main function. And then I will copy the game character above the other statements, because in JavaScript you need to declare the class before. Also in JavaScript you just don't declare the properties of a class, you can remove them. And the constructor function is actually called constructor, so you write constructor here. If you remember, you don't need to declare the type of the parameters or variables in JavaScript. And that's all for the class. Now here below I have to remove the type of the variables for let keyword. Here remember that game character is the type of the variable, and in JavaScript you just write let. And the function to print things on screen is console log. And that's all. If I run the program now, I expect to see the same result as in the Java program. And that's it. Now I will write the Python version from the JavaScript. In Python you also need to declare the class before the code. If you remember, you don't use curly braces, you use the colon character, but you need to make sure that the code inside the class or function is shifted to the right. Here for the constructor also I write the colon, I remove the curly braces, and I shift this to the right using the tab key. To declare the constructor in Python, you use the keyword def as in other functions, but the name is init, as you can see here. Also, you need to explicitly add a first parameter, the this that is implicit in JavaScript and Java. You need to declare it in Python, but actually by convention the name is self, so you should write self, but the concept is the same as this in Java and JavaScript. The true value is written with capital letter in Python. If you remember, you don't declare the variables in Python, you just remove the let, and you also don't need the new keyword in Python. Here false is written with capital letter, and the function to print things in Python is print. Remember that in Python it is better to use string interpolation to avoid problems when joining strings and numbers. I will fast forward this. So this is the final Python program, and the result is the same. You can also remove the semicolons because they are actually not used in Python. Now I will write the Kotlin version. I will use the Java version for that. Kotlin simplifies the way you write classes, because in Java you have to declare the properties and then assign them. I will copy the constructor to create the Kotlin class. I will write the keyword class to declare the class. And it looks like the class has parameters because Kotlin mixes the constructor and the class concept. Inside the class, I can declare the properties with the var keyword. The type of the parameters is written on the right side. In Kotlin, the type of variables is always written on the right side. Another simplification of Kotlin is that if you are assigning a parameter to a property of the same name, you can just declare the property inside the parentheses and remove this declaration and assignment. Now the only property that I need to declare inside is the aggressive, because I don't have the parameter for this property. Now I'm going to copy the code of the main function into the main function of Kotlin and fix the code. The game character is the type of the variable, so I can use just the var keyword. In Kotlin, as in Python, you don't use the new keyword. I have a problem here with double numbers. I can use .0 to make sure Kotlin knows it's a number with decimals. And the function to print things is println in Kotlin. And that's all. I see the same result in my Kotlin program.